Early National Signing Day was exciting once again, but for different reasons. We're seeing a change in college football thanks to the NIL, and it's time to take a look at the biggest winners and losers from yesterday. Now, at the time of recording, there are still probably some recruits that will sign, but we'll go into what happened yesterday. The biggest winner is just college football as a whole. When you look at early National Signing Day was exciting once again, but for different reasons this year. We're seeing a lot of different things going on in college football. We're seeing changes in college football, and that's a good thing. We're going to take a look at some of the biggest winners and losers from yesterday. The biggest one that I want to point out is college football as a whole was a big winner. When you look at, we have the 24/7's top players here. You look at who sits in the top players, the teams that got these recruits. Houston gets the number one overall recruit in Keyshawn Henderson, quarterback that we've been talking about for quite some time, has a bright future with this Houston team, was committed to them for a while and stuck with his commitment. He goes to Houston, the number one overall recruit. We haven't seen a player of this caliber since Ed Oliver. Faison Brandon goes to Tennessee, and while that's not a crazy thing, the fact that Tennessee is up there still says a lot about that team. Jared Curtis with the biggest surprise, though, flipping from Georgia to Vanderbilt. The number 3 overall recruit goes to Vanderbilt. So your top 3 are Houston, Tennessee, Vanderbilt. And when you look at this top 10, you are seeing that 9 of the top 10 players are going to different schools. There's 2 for Tennessee in the top 10. That's great. That spreads out the talent. That gives plenty of teams chances to build rosters and compete in the college football playoff. And when you keep going down, you're going to see more and more teams. You see Texas Tech getting involved with Felix Ojo. Darius Gray goes to South Carolina. You're seeing still the Alabamas in there. Oregon's getting it. Notre Dame. Haven't seen a Georgia until you get down to 28. So you're seeing that the talent is being spread out, which is good for the sport as a whole. That's a big time winner for college football. That's a big win for the sport as a whole. Seeing that talent disperse is very, very exciting. But let's go into some teams here. The biggest winner for a team here, I think, has to be the USC Trojans. Lincoln Riley's done a great job of keeping his guys committed and building this roster how he envisioned it when he got to USC. It was going to take some time, but this is a program that is headed in the right direction. That's very exciting if you are a USC fan. Lincoln Riley did a great job of getting in-state talent to stick with their commitments. You look at Mark Bowman from Mater Dei, his teammate, Caden Dixon-Wyatt. Those are 2 guys that are going to have a big-time impact. But the wide receiver position is going to be crazy for USC, and that's just a continued tradition. When you're losing guys like Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon to the NFL, you need players to be the future, and this is a recruiting class that does that. You look at who they were able to sign, the fact that they kept the number 1 overall class speaks volumes to the work that Lincoln Riley has done, and it's a big reason why USC is a big winner from early National Signing Day. Next is going to be the Oregon Ducks, and there's another reason for this. Both USC and Oregon are still in the running for Chris Henry Jr., the Ohio State commit. As of right now, I haven't seen anything about him sending his paperwork in, and USC and Oregon are still in the mix, according to multiple reports. That's huge. Oregon has the number 2 overall class, and Dan Lanning deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do. Be able to sign that class, especially when he lost both of his coordinators to head coaching opportunities. That tells me that these kids still believe in what Dan Lanning is doing, and they trust him to make the right hires. You look at the commit, 3 5-star commits, Anthony Jones and Jet Washington are the 2 big ones that people have been talking about the most. And that's going to be really fun to watch them play. The offensive line added some big time size, multiple guys that are 6'6" and 330 plus pounds. That is going to help in the Big Ten with where they're playing. Plenty of 4-star talent as well. So Oregon did a great job, and there is still more opportunity for them to get and more talent. If Chris Henry Jr. signs with them, that would be huge to add to that wide receiver room as well. Notre Dame's a big winner, not just because they're the 3rd best team or third best class in the college football world. But the way that they went about their business, they had 0 decommitments in this process to get these guys to stick with their commitments is pretty incredible. And when you look at some of these big time names, the one that I'm hearing about a lot is Joey O'Brien. A lot of people really like his size at the safety position. But then you look at some of the other guys they were able to sign. Aiden Pouncey is another guy who's going to join Joey O'Brien in that secondary. And when you look at some of the names that you're seeing, you see the Devin Fitzgerald. That's going to be a name to keep an eye on. Larry Fitzgerald's son, Caden Finley, Thomas Davis Jr. You had a lot of familiar names that are going to be potential big-time names for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame. NIL has changed a lot of things of what Notre Dame can do, and that's very exciting for the Fighting Irish. Virginia Tech was a winner purely by getting James Franklin to be their head coach. The Hokies got a number of flips to Virginia Tech from Penn State, and that's helped the recruiting class, the 22nd overall class in college football. I think that's going to be really fun to watch. The Hokies are looking to get back to where they once were in the ACC, and James Franklin is doing a great job. You see multiple 4-star players committing to the Hokies. Terry Wiggins is the biggest one, linebacker out of Pennsylvania. To be able to commit to James Franklin, that is going to be a big way to turn this program around quickly. Now, Minnesota's class isn't one of the top 25, but it's a top 30 class. And if you understand how difficult it is to recruit at Minnesota, you would understand how impressive this class is. PJ Fleck deserves a lot of credit to be able to get a number of 4-stars to commit to Minnesota, to come to Minnesota, especially because not all of them are from the area. To be able to get someone from Arizona is going to be an impressive feat by anyone. Minnesota's talent is going to be really fun. Roman Voss is the big name. Minnesota got him to commit over Alabama, and that's a huge get for this team. Again, 29th in college football is not a crazy class, but for Minnesota, it's very, very good. We talked about Jared Curtis going to Vanderbilt, and that is a reason alone for Vanderbilt to be a big winner. Still an impressive class. 31st overall class. A big reason for their improvement is Jared Curtis getting a 5-star quarterback to potentially replace Diego Pavia is huge. Class overall, very, very good. Vanderbilt is well on its way to where they want to be. Clark Lee is doing a great job of building that program, but getting Jared Curtis makes them a big winner. The final big winner I'm going to put is Houston. Similar to Vanderbilt, Keyshawn Henderson committing to them was huge. Now, Houston had the 37th best class, which isn't anything crazy when you look at what they were able to do in terms of recruitment, but I think that getting Keyshawn Henderson and then keeping him was one of the more impressive feats by any team. The number 1 overall recruit, the guy that is potentially going to bring the program to new heights. To be able to keep him is a very impressive feat. There were a number of other schools that wanted Keyshawn Henderson. To be able to keep him in his own backyard, Houston deserves a ton of credit. They were a big winner because they were able to keep him committed for such a long period of time. Now, Henderson seemed like a guy who really wanted to go to Houston, but we've seen guys like that in the past go elsewhere. So that was a huge win for this program and a big win for Willie Fritz in the future of Houston football. Next, we're going to go into the losers. And while Auburn is going to be in this category, still finishing 35th is impressive. The one thing I'll say with this is I've seen a lot of people putting Auburn as a big loser. I think that when you have a transition, it's always going to be difficult. And they just hired Alex Golesh, so there's still time for things to improve. So I would say that I'm putting him on this list mostly just to discuss that Golesh is going to be able to get them back on track, to be able to recruit at a higher level than this. Auburn obviously expects some big things, but when you look at this class too, 3 4-stars is not going to be something that Auburn fans are super thrilled about, which is the reason why they're on this side of things. But I think that in the future, they are going to be on the winner side more than they are on the losers. For a guy on the hot seat, Luke Fickell is not exactly doing a lot of things that get you excited about where this team is headed. Now, there are some interesting names to pay attention to in this recruiting class, but also I'm curious to see what they do in the transfer portal. This administration told Fickell that they're going to be behind him. They're going to support him financially a little bit more, but they're going to have to do some work in the transfer portal class. 78th in recruiting is not going to get the job done at Wisconsin in the Big Ten, any of those things. For a guy that is looking to bounce back and have a better season in 2026, this is not a great start. Baylor's kind of in the similar category where you gave Dave Aranda another year to prove himself, and this recruiting class isn't great. 80th is not good. 80th is horrendous for Baylor standards. To be able to finish this low, it says something about maybe this is not looking good for the future of this program. Now, still some impressive kids on this list, but not a ton. It was a smaller class so far. And again, if you are trying to save your job and you're Dave Aranda, this is probably not the way to do it. We talked about Deion Sanders and his lack of high school recruiting or his struggles in that department, and this class is not going to do much to help that. Only 10 players signed, 104th in the country. That is not going to impress anyone. And when you look at who they're behind, they're sitting behind the likes of Kent State, Ohio, Georgia Southern. They're just above Western Michigan, Louisiana Tech. That's not where you want to be if you're Coach Prime, if you're Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes. That's not going to win over the fan base a ton. And it just continues to show that there are some deficiencies in this program that need to be addressed. And recruiting is definitely high on the list. If you want to be competitive in the Big 12, if you want to be relevant in college football, you have to recruit the high school level. If you're going to hit the transfer portal hard, that's fine, but that's not going to be a great way to win the fan base over and show that you're headed in the right direction. Nebraska is in the same boat. And if you were someone who thought that Matt Rule was going to build this program well into the future and get them to a good place, there are some things that have to be addressed. And, next year you're going to have to nail the recruiting class. The transfer portal class that you get has to be a bunch of at least doubles and triples if you're not going to get a ton of players to build towards the future. I don't really know what the plan was for this class, but there are some pieces that are interesting. Danny Odom, a 5-star, to be able to get him from Orlando, Florida, is very impressive. But the fact that they're 112th, which does put them behind an FCS program in Idaho, I don't really know what the plan is there, but that one is not great. Nebraska is not in a good position there, and there's a lot of work to do for them to recover from that. And the final one, this one shouldn't be a surprise, but Penn State. Now, Penn State's a bigger loser because of the debacle that has been their coaching search. They have tried to get a number of head coaches that haven't worked out, that haven't committed, and now they're in a position where they're trying to figure that out, and they only have 2 players signed to their class. They are currently 150th in college football. So when you scroll all the way down, you're going to see the number of teams ahead of them right now. South Dakota State is ahead of them. McNeese, West Georgia, Towson, UAB. There are programs ahead of them, and this is a team that should never be this low ever, even close to this low. Penn State's in a weird spot right now. You maybe have some questions about, did they make the right decision to fire James Franklin? Because right now things are not looking good, and the future is going to be impacted if this is what this class looks like going forward.